So you have yarn that is in a skein, or also called a hank, called different things in different places. So the first thing to do is to undo it from its twist here. And most times, if you're relatively lucky, it will be pretty easy to see where the center of this is. Because especially if it's already twisted like that, there's usually maybe a yarn label around it, something like that, or one big skein tie. This one is a hank of undyed yarn, and so it has one skein tie that is a different color there. And so I can look at that and tell that I do in fact have the center, because as you can see, there are no yarn pieces going in front of this on either that side or this side. All of the yarn, the entire skein, is captured within this darker colored yarn tie. And it might seem like maybe it's not important, or that I'm spending a lot of time talking about something that's like kind of easy and obvious. But in fact, if you accidentally, it's not all that hard actually to get a piece of yarn that is like this instead. So you just accidentally grab one piece and it looks okay now, right? You wouldn't know that that's crossed over at all. But when I go to unwind it, that's going to create a whole bunch of problems. It's because you basically have one piece of yarn that's now crossed over all of the other pieces, and it will make your life a nightmare when you go to unwind it. And how can I tell, right, which one it is now? Well, let's see. I just had it. There it is. So you see how that one piece of yarn is crossed in front of my skein tie there? See? So I can tell that that one is not where it's supposed to be. It is not in the same orientation as all of the other ones. So if you see something like that, which again is like right here, then you can be like, oh, that's no good. And you can kind of fish that piece of yarn out and be like, oh yes, in fact, that guy belongs down here. And now we're good, and we have the true center of the skein. Okay, so snapping your skein. This is important. So this skein is actually relatively well behaved because it's just like all in a loose hank right now, but sometimes skeins can be like a little bit uneven because, you know, maybe they've been to a yarn festival and people have handled it or something like that. And so one important thing before putting yarn on your Swift is to just kind of snap it a few times around your hands to even out all that tension. And it also just helps separate the yarn and kind of align all of the strands of yarn in this hank so that they're all more parallel to each other instead of like kind of crisscrossing. So what I mean by snapping is just like that. So I kind of give it 3, 1, 2, 3, and then just move my hand like a quarter turn around the skein. 1, 2, 3, quarter turn around the skein. 1, 2, 3, quarter turn around the skein. And you can see how the skein has like opened up a little bit and everything is nicely parallel. So yes, that is snapping your skein, and that is also a really important part of yarn unwinding. Okay, so now that we have the true center of the skein, we can put the yarn on the Swift. With our Swifts, you can like do a few different things. I kind of like to open it just like a little bit first so that I can just kind of place it on like this. And then I kind of hold it a little bit loosely here, and you can just raise the rest of the Swift up with one hand. Yeah, and now we get to find and cut off all the skein ties. And this part is kind of important too, because it is easy to accidentally introduce a cross when you're cutting off the final tie where the two ends are captured. So let's look at that, of course. Oh, yes, I do even have scissors here. Wacha, wacha. Okay, so the first thing that I'm actually going to do is I'm going to look for the skein tie that has both ends, and it is this one. And I know that it has both ends because there are 4 pieces of yarn coming off of here. So there's the skein tie itself, which is a separate small loop of yarn, and it's capturing both ends. I'm going to save this one till the very last. So I'm just going to skip right by that one. So now we are looking at the one that is this one, that it's our different color skein tie. I like to cut off the knot. And the reason I like to cut off the knot is so that once you've done that, you can just grab this piece and yank it out, and the knot doesn't catch on anything. It doesn't introduce, it doesn't catch on a piece of your skein here. It doesn't like pull anything out. It just is very, very easy to remove, and it kind of keeps your skein all good. Oh, I didn't go over snapping your skein. I'll do that in a second. There's actually a step that I skipped before putting it on the Swift. So here's my other skein tie, and you can see when I first put it on the skein, like they're can kind of be like caught underneath. Most of it's over here, the end's over here, and I just like to kind of see what's going on here. Maybe just arrange it a little bit better so that I can clearly see, okay, this is the tie now, and it's not like looped over or going in the middle here or anything like that. And again, I'm just going to cut off the knot. And then I can just take the other end here and just kind of pull it straight out like that. All right, and this one, oh, looks like we have one more that I accidentally skipped over. Here we go. So another skein tie here. This one's looking pretty straightforward. Cut off end, or cut off the knot, and then pull that out. Okay, so now I'm left with the one that has the 4 ends all together. Because this is nice and loose, I'm just going to cut it off at the knot. If it was kind of tight in here and I thought I was going to lose the ends when I cut off the knot, I would make sure that I'm like holding all 4 ends. Because right here you want to be a little bit careful when you undo everything so that you don't accidentally introduce a cross into your yarn at this point. You want the ends to, just come apart just like nice and cross-free. All right, so I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna cut off the knot, and now I kind of have a mess of ends here, and I'm just gonna kind of fish through here and figure out which is my completely loose skein tie and which are the 2 ends that actually, are part of the yarn, or part of the skein. So here, I can see that this one is actually part of the skein. It's going into here. So I know that this one is part of my tie, and I'm just gonna kind of like gently fish them out so that I don't accidentally catch my other end and like pull it through, because that could introduce a cross in the yarn. All right, so now I got the skein tie off. I have one end here. It looks like it's gonna pull very nicely. I have the other end in back. It's, it's just hanging out in back. That's great. I'm not gonna touch that end. I'm just gonna kind of leave it dangling right here. And then I'm gonna put it on the ball winder and start to wind this. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a wider angle view here. You're not really gonna be able to see the ball winder, but that's okay. It might be a little boring anyway from here on out. Oh, there we go. You can see the ball winder. Perfect. And so I just kind of tension it with this hand a little bit and just start cranking. That's it. So yeah, I'm just like getting towards the end here. I like to slow down my winding towards the end so that I don't accidentally get ahead of anything. And there we go. And so now we are left with a ball that we can knit from.